boyfriend convinced me to quit my job and move abroad, then abandoned me at the airport. 1 year later, he showed up again, but now I was the one holding all the cards. My boyfriend left me homeless and all alone overseas. My biggest dream in life was to always design book covers. I know that sounds strange, but bear with me. My job at the time was stable. I had rent control, weekly dinners with friends, and a calendar of future plans I actually looked forward to. But then I met Ryan. He was intense off the bat, sweet too, so sure of everything. We dated for over a year before he told me I was wasting my talent at my current job. He said I needed to reset and go somewhere I could be bigger than the me that was stuck in my safe routine. He kept saying, "This will be good for us." He brought up moving abroad before I even had much of a chance to think. At first I laughed it off, but the more he talked about it, about cozy flats with street markets, biking to cafes, and writing all afternoon, it didn't sound so crazy anymore. He said he'd been dreaming of this since college, so I said yes. We started planning. He quit his job. I gave notice. We sold furniture. We held a little going away party, and I cried when my best friend made a toast. I was nervous but hopeful. I told myself that love looked like big leaps sometimes. Then it was the day of the flight. I was at the gate with my carry-on bag, double-checking the time every 5 seconds. He was supposed to be right behind me. We had both gone through security already, but he asked me to go ahead while he grabbed coffee. I offered to go with him. He said he'd rather be alone for a second. That should have been the first red flag, but I told myself he just needed a breather and was overwhelmed. Biggest mistake of my life. I waited at that gate for almost an hour, panicking, calling him, reassuring myself he'd be here soon. Our boarding group eventually got called, and then came the final call. Right as I stood up to look for him one final time, I got the text. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. Just that. Nothing else." I immediately tried to call him. Turns out I was blocked. I checked our shared calendar right away and saw that it was deleted. Every trace of him on social media was wiped too. I was so furious. Then I did something even I didn't expect. I got on the flight. I don't know what possessed me, but I knew that I couldn't go back home. When I landed, I took a cab straight to the apartment we'd booked. The landlord stared at me like I was lost. He said the lease had been canceled days ago. My name had never been on it. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up. That was the moment it hit me. He hadn't just ditched me. He had planned it. I spent that first night in a cheap hostel. I cried into my coat all night. The next day, the girl I slept under offered me a cigarette and told me about a Facebook group for expats. That's how I found cleaning work at a nearby budget motel. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept me afloat. Pretty soon I learned the area. I bought a local SIM card, picked up a tiny bit of the language, and slowly, things got manageable. And on one of the days, I went out for cheap coffee with a friend from the hostel. She was scrolling TikTok and showed me a video of my ex's account, where he had posted himself in a trendy cafe. She followed him to keep track for me. There he was, laughing with another girl, still in our old city. I froze. He had never planned to move. He had told me everything I wanted to hear, so I'd upend my life. It was never about us building something together. It was about control. And once he knew I was too independent to lean on him, he bailed. A few days later, I got a DM from someone I didn't know. It was one of his friends, a guy I'd only met once or twice. He said he felt guilty, that he never thought things would go this far. Then he sent screenshots, dozens of texts, group chats, private messages, my ex bragging about how easily I fell for it, how he was testing me, how he was curious to see how long I'd last on my own, how I'd probably come crawling back. I stared at those messages for hours. That night, I applied for a job I'd always dreamed of, but never thought I was good enough for. It was in a creative field I had convinced myself was out of reach. A week later, I got the interview. 2 weeks after that, I got the job. I moved into a tiny but bright apartment. I was sitting at my new kitchen table one evening, filling out paperwork to extend my visa, when I got a text. "Are you happy now?" I stared at it for a full minute, then I hit block. A few days later, I got another message. This one wasn't from him. It was from a girl I didn't know. "I know you don't know me," it started, "but I think he did to me what he did to you. He left me alone in Iceland. No money, no idea how to get back. He mentioned you once. I found your name through a mutual friend. Please help me." I didn't reply right away. I just sat there, phone in hand, heart racing. I wasn't the only girl he did this to. I stared at that message for what felt like hours. My hands were shaking. I finally typed back asking for her name and some details. She responded immediately. Her name was Olivia. She'd been dating Ryan for 3 months when he suggested an adventure trip to Iceland. Same pattern. He made her quit her job, sell her stuff, and cut ties with friends who didn't support their dreams. I felt sick reading her messages. I sent her money for a hotel that night through PayPal. Then I helped her book a flight home. We video chatted while she waited at the airport. She looked exactly how I felt those first few days, shell-shocked and exhausted. I couldn't believe I was looking at another version of myself. After she got home safely, we started comparing notes. The similarities were eerie. Ryan had used the same lines on both of us, the same romantic gestures, even took her to the same restaurant where he first told me he loved me. It was like he had a playbook. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about how calculated it all was, how many others were out there. I created a private Instagram account called Ryan Survivors and added Olivia. We started documenting everything, dates, patterns, screenshots. It felt good to put it all in one place, like we were taking back some control. A week later, Olivia messaged me about a woman named Tessa who had commented on one of Ryan's old photos. Something about the comment seemed off to her. I reached out to Tessa, and sure enough, she had a similar story from 2 years ago. Ryan had convinced her to move to Chicago with him. He disappeared the morning they were supposed to sign the lease. Our little group grew to 5 women within a month. Each story was a variation on the same theme. Ryan would find women who were stable but restless. He'd promise them a better life somewhere else. He'd isolate them from friends and family. Then he'd abandon them at the most vulnerable moment. One night after work, I got a notification that Ryan had posted a new TikTok. I usually avoided looking at his social media, but something made me click. There he was, sitting in a cafe with a woman I didn't recognize. He was talking about their plans to move to Portugal next month. My blood ran cold. I showed the video to our group chat. Everyone agreed we needed to warn her. But how? We didn't even know her name. Tessa managed to find her through some mutual connections. Her name was Danielle. She worked at a bookstore downtown. I debated what to do for days. Part of me wanted to just message her directly with screenshots of all our stories, but another part of me worried she wouldn't believe a random stranger on the internet. Ryan was charming. He knew how to spin things. He'd probably tell her I was just a crazy ex. Eventually, I decided I needed to talk to her in person. I took a day off work and went to the bookstore. I browsed for almost an hour before working up the courage to approach her. She was arranging a display of travel books. The irony wasn't lost on me. I pretended to ask for a book recommendation, then gradually steered the conversation toward travel plans. plans. When she mentioned Portugal, my heart raced. This was definitely her. I told her I'd recently returned from abroad. She asked where, and I told her the truth, that I'd moved there after a relationship ended badly. We talked for almost 20 minutes. She seemed nice, excited about her future, just like I had been. I couldn't bring myself to drop the bomb on her right there in the store. Instead, I asked if she'd want to grab coffee sometime to talk more about living abroad. She agreed and gave me her number. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how Ryan was setting up another woman for the same fall. Our group chat was blowing up with advice. Some thought I should bring backup to the coffee meeting. Others thought I should just send her all our evidence now. I didn't know what the right move was. I met Danielle for coffee 3 days later. My hands were sweating so much I could barely hold my cup. We made small talk for a while before I finally worked up the courage. I asked her if she was dating someone named Ryan Lawrence. Her face lit up. She said yes, they were planning a big move together. My mouth went dry. I told her I needed to show her something important. I pulled out my phone and showed her the Instagram account with all our stories. Her smile faded as she scrolled through post after post. Screenshots of identical text messages he'd sent to different women, photos of the same special restaurants, the same promises. This has to be some kind of mistake, she whispered. But I could see in her eyes that she was connecting dots, things that hadn't made sense before. Red flags she'd ignored. I gave her space to process. Told her she could reach out to any of us directly if she had questions. I left my number and walked out, not knowing if I'd done the right thing or just made everything worse. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Danielle. Can we talk? I have questions. My stomach nodded as I read it, unsure if she was angry with me or if she believed what I'd shown her. I suggested meeting at a different coffee shop, one I knew Ryan never went to. When I arrived, Danielle was already there, eyes red from crying, clutching a large cup of tea between her hands, as if trying to absorb its warmth. She'd been up all night going through our Instagram account, reading every story. She told me Ryan had already started pressuring her to sell her car and quit her job at the bookstore. He'd even suggested she distance herself from her sister, who wasn't supportive enough of their Portugal plans. She pulled out her phone and showed me texts from him that morning. He was pushing to move their Portugal plans up by 2 weeks. My stomach nodded. He was accelerating his timeline. I wondered if he somehow knew we'd connected, if he sensed that his carefully constructed facade was beginning to crack. Danielle asked what she should do. I told her about how I'd gotten on that plane anyway, how I'd rebuilt my life in a strange city after he disappeared, how I'd found a tiny apartment and a job at a cafe, how I'd cried myself to sleep for weeks before finally finding my footing, how our group had grown to support each other, sharing resources and encouragement. She nodded, wiping tears with a crumpled napkin. Then she did something I didn't expect. She called Ryan right there at the table and put him on speaker. She told him she needed more time to think about Portugal. His voice changed immediately. The warmth vanished, replaced by a cold edge I recognized all too well. He started questioning who she'd been talking to, if she'd met someone. My heart pounded so hard I thought he might hear it through the phone. Danielle stayed calm, just repeating that she needed time. He hung up on her. Within minutes, her phone exploded with texts, accusations, guilt trips, threats to leave without her. I watched her face harden with each new message, her initial hurt transforming into something stronger, anger, resolve. She blocked his number right there at the table. Then she looked up at me and asked to join our group. That night, we added Danielle to the Ryan Survivors account. She uploaded her own screenshots, her own stories. It was cathartic for her, she said, like taking back pieces of herself. But around midnight, something weird happened. We all got Instagram notifications that someone was requesting to follow our private account. The username was just a string of numbers. We denied it, but the request came again minutes later. A chill ran down my spine as I blocked the account, wondering if Ryan had somehow found us. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls from Danielle. When I finally reached her, she was frantic. Someone had broken into her apartment while she was at work. Nothing valuable was taken, but her laptop was open and all her social media accounts were logged out. She was sure it was Ryan. The thought of him in her space, touching her things, invading her privacy, made me feel physically ill. I rushed over to her place. We changed all her passwords, set up two-factor authentication on everything. The whole time, I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting Ryan to appear. The shadows in her apartment seemed to shift and move, making me jump at nothing. Danielle decided to stay with her sister that night. I went home feeling uneasy, checking my locks twice before trying to sleep. That uneasiness was justified. When I got to work the next day, my boss called me into his office. Someone had emailed the company claiming I was harassing an ex-boyfriend, creating fake accounts to damage his reputation. They'd included screenshots of our private Instagram, but they were edited to make it look like I was the only one posting, obsessively tracking Ryan's life. I tried to explain, but my boss just looked uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact as he shuffled papers on his desk. He said they were looking into it, but advised me to handle my personal issues outside of work. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, wondering how Ryan had gotten those screenshots, feeling the ground shifting beneath my feet once again. When I checked our group chat that night, I found out I wasn't the only one. Tessa's landlord had received emails claiming she was running a defamation campaign from her apartment. Olivia's new job had gotten similar messages. Ryan was retaliating, trying to destabilize our lives just like he'd done before. We needed to regroup. I suggested we meet in person, all of us who lived in the area. We gathered at Tessa's apartment that weekend. Me, Tessa, Olivia, Danielle, and 2 others, Vanessa and Jill. 6 women brought together by the same manipulative man. We ordered pizza and spread our laptops across Tessa's living room floor, the boxes and napkins scattered between our devices as we worked. First order of business was security. We deleted the Instagram account and created a new, even more private Discord server. We used code names. We set up new email addresses. We became more careful about what we shared and where, creating a system of checks and balances to protect our information. Then we started talking strategy. This wasn't just about warning others anymore. This was about protecting ourselves. Ryan had escalated things by coming after our jobs, our homes. We needed to be smarter than him, to anticipate his next moves before he made them. Jill, who worked in IT, suggested we document everything. Every strange email, every break-in, every threat, build a paper trail. Vanessa, who had a cousin who was a police officer, asked him hypothetically what we could do. The answer wasn't encouraging. Without direct threats or significant property damage, there wasn't much legal recourse. The system wasn't designed to protect women from this kind of calculated psychological warfare. While we were talking, Danielle got a text from an unknown number. Just 3 words. I see you. She showed us her phone, hands trembling. We closed all the blinds in Tessa's apartment, checked the locks twice, stayed together that night, sleeping in shifts, jumping at every creak and groan of the building. The next morning, morning, I went back to my apartment to get fresh clothes. There was a note taped to my door. "Stop now, or everyone will know what you really are." I tore it down, hands shaking, and ran back to my car. I didn't feel safe going inside, imagining Ryan waiting for me, or worse, having already been there, touching my things, invading my space. I drove straight to Tessa's place. When I got there, the others were already in crisis mode. Ryan had somehow gotten Olivia's parents' phone number and called them, pretending to be concerned about her mental health. Told them she was part of a revenge group targeting innocent men. Her parents had called her, worried and confused. She'd spent an hour trying to explain the situation to them, her voice hoarse from the effort. We were all scared, but something else was happening too. We were getting angry, really angry. This man had uprooted our lives, isolated us, abandoned us, and now he was trying to intimidate us into silence. We decided right then that we weren't going to let him win again. No more running, no more hiding. It was time to stand our ground. Jill had an idea. Ryan's whole pattern depended on isolation, separating women from their support networks. What if we created the opposite? A network so strong he couldn't break it. We started reaching out to people we trusted, friends, family members, co-workers. We explained what was happening, showed them evidence, built our own army of support. My best friend Natalie, who I hadn't really talked to since leaving the country, came over immediately after I called her. She helped me sweep my apartment for hidden cameras or bugs. Didn't find any, but just having her there made me feel safer. She stayed over that night and we talked until 3 a.m. I told her everything. She believed me without question, her unwavering support like a balm on an open wound. The next day, Danielle called in a panic. Ryan had shown up at the bookstore, just stood there staring at her through the window for 10 minutes before leaving. Her manager had noticed and asked if she needed help. Danielle told her everything. To her surprise, her manager not only believed her, but offered to ban Ryan from the store and walk Danielle to her car after closing. Small victories, but they mattered. We were building a community of protection around ourselves. People started watching out for us. A neighbor agreed to keep an eye on Tessa's apartment. Olivia's roommate started checking that their door was locked multiple times a day. My coworker Bradley offered to walk me to my car after late shifts. Then something unexpected happened. A woman named Mackenzie reached out to Vanessa through a mutual friend. She'd dated Ryan briefly 3 years ago. He'd tried the same routine with her, but she'd caught on early and broken things off. Ryan had stalked her for weeks afterward, leaving notes, showing up at her workplace. She'd never reported it because she didn't think anyone would believe her. Mackenzie had valuable information for us. She knew Ryan's patterns when he felt threatened. She knew which coffee shops he frequented, which friends enabled his behavior. Most importantly, she knew he always backed down when confronted publicly. His whole game relied on privacy, on keeping his different lives separate. We started strategizing again, this time with Mackenzie's insights. If Ryan thrived in secrecy, we needed to bring things into the light, but carefully, without putting ourselves at risk. We decided to create a TikTok, not calling him out by name, not showing his face, but describing the pattern in detail. Warning signs to watch for, how to protect yourself. I volunteered to make it. I kept it vague enough to avoid any defamation issues, but specific enough that anyone dating Ryan would recognize the behaviors. I posted it from a new account with no connection to my real name. Within days, it had over 50,000 views, the comment section filling with women sharing similar stories, not about Ryan specifically, but about men who used the same playbook. We'd tapped into something bigger than our situation. Our little support group started growing beyond just Ryan's victims. A week after posting the TikTok, I got a message from a woman named Heather. She'd been dating Ryan for 6 weeks. He was already talking about them moving to Berlin together. She'd seen my TikTok and recognized too many similarities to ignore. She wanted advice. I connected her with our group. We helped her plan a safe exit strategy. She broke things off with Ryan in a public place, with friends waiting nearby. He tried to make a scene, but backed down when he realized people were watching. Heather was shaken, but safe. Another woman who wouldn't go through what we had. That's when Ryan really started to unravel. He must have figured out we were connected to the TikTok somehow. He created fake accounts to leave threatening comments. He drove by Tessa's apartment at night, honking his horn at 3 a.m. He sent Danielle's sister a long email full of lies about her, but his intimidation tactics weren't working anymore. We had each other now. We had a support system. We documented everything. When he left another note on my car windshield, I didn't hide it or panic. I took a photo, logged it in our shared document, and told my apartment manager. The final straw came when Ryan created a fake profile using Olivia's photos. He used it to send disturbing messages to men online, trying to damage her reputation. She was devastated when she found out. We gathered at her apartment that night to help her report the account and contact everyone who'd received messages. While we were there, Jill got a notification on her phone. Someone had just tagged Ryan in a post at a bar downtown. He was out celebrating something with friends, smiling and carefree while we were dealing with the chaos he'd created. In that moment, looking at Olivia's tear-streaked face, I made a decision. I was done being reactive. It was time to confront him directly. I told the others my plan. Most thought it was too risky. Mackenzie especially warned against engaging with him in any way. But Danielle understood. She volunteered to come with me. Safety in numbers. We promised the others we'd stay in public, keep our phones on, and leave at the first sign of trouble. We took an Uber to the bar. My heart was pounding the whole way there. I kept rehearsing what I would say, but nothing seemed right. When we walked in, I spotted him immediately, laughing with 3 guys I recognized from his Instagram, acting like he didn't have a care in the world. Danielle squeezed my hand. We walked straight up to his table. The look on his face when he saw us together was something I'll never forget. Shock, then anger, then a quick attempt to compose himself in front of his friends. "What are you doing here?" he asked, trying to sound casual but failing. I felt a weird calm wash over me, like I'd finally reached the eye of the hurricane. I looked Ryan straight in the face. "We need to talk," I said. His friends were staring at us, confused. One of them, a guy with a baseball cap, whispered something to the others. Ryan's face went from shocked to angry in seconds. "There's nothing to talk about," he said, trying to sound dismissive. "You two should leave." Danielle stepped forward. "We're not going anywhere until you stop harassing us." Ryan laughed, but it sounded forced. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and showed him the note he'd left on my door. This look familiar? His friends were watching now, clearly uncomfortable. Ryan's face flushed red. He grabbed my arm and tried to pull me away from the table. I yanked it back. "Don't touch me," I said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. People turned to look. Ryan noticed and immediately changed tactics. "Let's talk outside," he said, his voice suddenly quiet and reasonable. "No way," Danielle replied. "We're staying right here in public." One of Ryan's friends, a tall guy with a beard, stood up. "Ryan, what's going on? Who are these women?" Ryan ignored him and glared at us. "You're making a scene over nothing. I haven't done anything to either of you." you. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket, probably the others checking in. I took a deep breath. We know about the fake profile you made with Olivia's photos, I said. We know you broke into Danielle's apartment. We know you've been threatening all of us. His friends were staring at him now. The guy in the baseball cap looked disgusted. Dude, what is she talking about? He asked Ryan. Ryan stood up suddenly, knocking over his beer. They're crazy, both of them. They've been stalking me for months. The tall bearded friend looked skeptical. Like those other women you mentioned? The ones you said were obsessed with you? I caught Danielle's eye. We hadn't expected this opening. His friends already knew something was off. There are 6 of us, I said directly to the bearded guy. All with the same story. He convinces women to uproot their lives, isolates them from friends and family, then abandons them in foreign countries. Baseball cap guy turned to Ryan. Is this true? Ryan was sweating now. Of course not. They're making it up. Show them the Instagram, Danielle whispered to me. I pulled up our backup account on my phone and handed it to bearded guy. Scroll through, see for yourself. He took the phone and started looking. Baseball cap and the third friend leaned in to see. Ryan tried to grab the phone, but bearded guy moved away. What the hell, man? Bearded guy said after a minute. These are all different women, with screenshots of your texts. The third friend, who hadn't spoken yet, looked up at Ryan. Dude, that's messed up. Ryan was cornered. I could see the panic in his eyes. He suddenly grabbed his jacket. This is bullpoop. I'm out of here. He pushed past us and headed for the door. I felt a surge of frustration. He was running away again, always running when confronted. But then something unexpected happened. Bearded guy called after him. Ryan, you forgot something. Ryan turned around, and bearded guy held up Ryan's phone, which he'd left on the table. Ryan walked back to grab it. You should probably know, bearded guy said quietly. I just texted your mom from your phone, told her to check her email. I sent her the link to that Instagram account. Ryan's face went white. You what? You've been lying to everyone, man. Even us. We're done. Ryan snatched his phone and stormed out. The 3 guys apologized to us, clearly embarrassed. Baseball cap guy told us Ryan had been bragging about training women to depend on him. They thought he was just talking big. Danielle and I left the bar feeling weirdly empty. The confrontation hadn't gone how I expected. No dramatic showdown, no satisfying moment of Ryan admitting what he'd done. Just a pathetic man running away when exposed. We updated the others when we got back to Tessa's apartment. Everyone had mixed feelings. Relief that his friends now knew the truth. Worry about how Ryan would react. Mackenzie warned us to be extra careful for the next few days. She was right to be concerned. The next morning, Ryan went nuclear. He started posting about us on every platform, calling us liars, stalkers, crazy exes. He even posted Olivia's address, encouraging his followers to let her know what they think of women who falsely accuse men. We reported the posts, but the damage was done. Olivia started getting threatening messages. She stayed with Tessa that night, too scared to be alone. We took screenshots of everything Ryan posted, adding to our documentation. Then Ryan's mom called him. We know because he posted a long, angry rant about women conspiring against him, and even turning his family against him. His mom had apparently seen our evidence and confronted him. He didn't take it well. The next day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Ryan's mom, Deborah. She'd found my number through the contact info on our documentation. She was crying, said she'd had no idea what her son had been doing. She'd noticed money missing from her accounts over the past year, but believed Ryan when he said he needed it for investments. Deborah told me Ryan had done similar things in high school and college. She'd covered for him, made excuses, paid people off. She thought he'd grown out of it. Now she realized she'd enabled him. I felt bad for her. She seemed genuinely horrified by what Ryan had done. She asked if we were planning to go to the police. I explained we'd tried, but without direct threats of violence, they couldn't do much. She was quiet for a moment, then said she might be able to help with that. 2 days later, Deborah sent us screenshots of texts from Ryan explicitly threatening to make those beaches pay and ruin their lives. Texts he'd sent to her when she confronted him. Texts that crossed the line into actual threats. We took everything to the police. The threats, the break-in evidence, the fake profiles, the notes, the drive-bys. With Ryan's mom backing our story, they finally took us seriously. They called Ryan in for questioning. That must have scared him, because he suddenly went quiet. His social media accounts went dark. The harassment stopped. We heard through Deborah that he'd moved back to his hometown, hours away. We kept our guard up for weeks, expecting him to resurface, but he didn't. Deborah told us she'd given him an ultimatum, therapy, or she'd cut him off completely. She'd also warned every woman in his contacts about his pattern. Slowly, we started to relax. Danielle got promoted at the bookstore. Olivia started dating someone new, someone kind who respected her boundaries. Tessa moved to a more secure apartment building. I focused on my job, making friends in my new country. Our support group stayed active, but we talked less about Ryan and more about our lives, our victories, our healing. We'd been brought together by trauma, but we're staying together by choice. Then, 6 months after the confrontation at the bar, I got a message request on Instagram. It was from a woman named Samantha. She'd been talking to Ryan online for a few weeks. He'd suggested they meet in person. Something felt off to her, so she'd done some digging and found an old comment I'd left on one of his photos before I blocked him. I invited her to video chat with our group. We told her everything. She thanked us, blocked Ryan, and dodged what could have been another cycle of manipulation. It felt good, like we'd finally broken the pattern. A year after Ryan abandoned me at the airport, I visited home for the first time. I was nervous about seeing old friends, explaining what had happened, but everyone was supportive. No one judged me for getting on that plane alone. If anything, they were impressed by how I'd rebuilt my life. My best friend threw a small welcome home party. As I looked around at the familiar faces, I realized something important. Ryan hadn't taken anything from me that I couldn't rebuild. Yes, he'd upended my life, but in doing so, he'd accidentally pushed me toward growth I might never have found otherwise. I stayed in touch with the other women from our group. We had a bond that was hard to explain to outsiders. We'd seen each other at our most vulnerable and helped each other find strength. About a year and a half after everything went down, Olivia messaged our group chat with news. She'd run into one of Ryan's friends, the tall bearded guy from the bar. He told her Ryan had tried the same routine with a woman in his hometown, but this time, the woman had Googled him first and found our TikTok. She'd confronted him immediately, in public, with screenshots of our stories. Ryan had been humiliated. The friend said Ryan was having trouble dating now because women in town had started warning each other about him. I felt a weird mix of emotions reading that. Not satisfaction exactly, not revenge, just a sense that maybe the world was a little safer because we'd spoken up. Last month, I got a job offer back home. A good one, better than what I had before I left. I thought about it for days before deciding. This new country had become home in ways I hadn't expected. I'd built a life here, made real friends, found favorite cafes and walking routes. I decided to to stay. I still think about Ryan sometimes, not with anger anymore. Mostly I wonder what made him the way he is, what emptiness he's trying to fill by controlling and abandoning women. I hope he gets help someday, for his sake and for any woman who crosses his path. But I don't dwell on it. I have a life to live, a good one that I built myself, piece by piece, after everything fell apart. Yesterday, I helped another woman who found our support group online. She wasn't one of Ryan's victims, but she had a similar story. Different man, same pattern. I walked her through safety planning, documentation, building a support network, all the things we'd learned the hard way. When we finished talking, she thanked me and asked how I'd gotten through it all. I thought about it for a moment. One day at a time, I told her, and by realizing I wasn't alone. That's the thing Ryan never understood. He thought by isolating us, he was making us weaker. But in the end, it brought us together, made us stronger than we ever would have been alone. I'm meeting Danielle for coffee tomorrow. She's visiting for a week, her first trip abroad since the Iceland disaster. We're going to explore the city together, visit the cafes and street markets Ryan once described to me, reclaim those dreams for ourselves. That's the best revenge, I think. Not exposing him or warning others, though that matters too. The best revenge is living well, on our own terms, without fear. Building the lives we want, not the ones someone else designed to control us. I'm not the same person I was when I got on that plane alone. I'm stronger now, wiser, more careful, yes, but also more brave. I know what I'm capable of surviving, what I'm capable of building from scratch, and I know I'm not alone. None of us are.